So you built the product, you launched, sales are coming in, but now support requests are piling up, your server's slow, your email list is a mess, your license system is duct taped together, and you're spending so much more time than you expected managing chaos instead of building and promoting features. Does that sound familiar? Behind every successful WordPress product is a solid business infrastructure, or not so solid, a quiet, powerful, and often invisible hand. In this episode, we're unpacking the systems and tools that keep real product businesses running behind the scenes. This is WP Product Talk.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Zack, Katz, founder of GravityKit.
And I'm Matt Cromwell, co-founder at GiveWP at StellarWP.
And today we are talking about the tools that go into running a WordPress product business.
And that's why we invited my friend and colleague, Matt Batchelder, to join us today. Matt, welcome to the show, man. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good to see you guys.
Can you introduce yourself to the world for us?
Yeah, so I'm Matt Batchelder. I am the head of engineering at StellarWP. I came over to Stellar through the events calendar. I was the lead engineer there for, since 2015, I believe.
Nice. And you've been at Stellar now for about 4 or 5 years, right?
5 years, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
sure.
Intro people across multiple products, and yeah.
I'm sure during that time you have experienced a lot of infrastructure, Matt.
Maybe a little bit. a lot of homegrown infrastructure and adopting a bunch of third-party tools that kind of make up the maybe duct tapes and twigs that is the thing that runs our business.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you that when Zack brought up this subject as a podcast conversation, I was like, there's only one person I know that really gets excited about this subject.
I'm a nerd. Yeah.
So I'm really glad you're here. So.
And Matt, why is this important for product owners?
Well, I mean, as a product business gets bigger, there's a lot of people that have their hands in building the code, pushing it out, pushing products out into the wild, monitoring what is out in the wild, and reacting to it to drive business decisions or answer questions that come in from support. So the infrastructure that we've put in place, or products need to put in place, really shortens the distance to solving problems or speeds up really boring parts of the build process for a product, so you can actually focus on the really interesting things. Infrastructure is so important, but you got to grow it slowly, I think.
And sometimes I know personally with GravityKit, I kind of fell into a lot of the tools that we used, and then it took a lot of time to rewind and reconsider and re-implement a better structure. And we're still dealing with technical tooling debt that were from decisions made in 2014 on how to implement things.
Yeah, it's such a long tail of problems and annoyances, because like the main thing is you want to fix this little thing that's annoying you or taking a lot of time, and it's super expensive to make it perfect. So you fix these little pieces, and your perceptions of things change over time, and the stuff that gave you a speed up of save an hour 3 years ago, processes have changed, or it suddenly becomes a thorn in your side, and then you iterate. And is that similar for GravityKit?
Absolutely, and it's a completely different situation when you have 1 or 2 developers working on something, and you have 3 to 5 developers working on something. and the process for determining code reviews and assigning quality assurance testing, and what does that even look like. A lot of the tooling that we may or may not talk about is documentation.
Yeah.
And that's just a doc, and that's making sure that people know where it is and what it is, and like actually follow it. And that's a whole nother can of beans, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a good one, actually. We come across that a lot, just in terms of even some of our internal workflows for how support works. Like, where did this gravity form come from? Like, why does this thing exist? And somebody's like, it seems pointless. Let's just delete it. And then like, the whole thing just like doesn't work anymore because just, it's not documented. So people don't know why it's there or why it works.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And you're talking about like process documentation. There's also like the public documentation too that's in the mix. And now with AI being a thing that can consume this documentation, I think we're on the cusp of trying to figure out some more tooling around massaging the documentation we're already generating in a way that is AI consumable too. So
we were just having a team call earlier today at GravityKit where we said, if our docs are not step-by-step convertible into a Playwright automated testing script, then that might not be a good enough doc. But that also is maybe a very dry doc, so there's got to be like a different maybe documentation process for the AI.
Right.
Humans. Yeah.
Consumable by AI is not necessarily consumable by humans.
Yeah.
So let's get into this. Matt, you have an incredible slideshow that we're going to be going through today, and I'm really excited to dive into it.
Yeah. I'm excited. This whole kind of season of WP Product Talk, we're trying to do these, what we call show and tell, and trying to ask our guests to come and bring something that they can show us. And I was joking with Batchelder that, GitHub repos aren't so fun to look at. I mean, he disagreed and Zack disagreed. But,
Strong disagree.
I mean, for all of you out there, I advocated for something visual, and Matt's actually really good at slide decks. So,
well, we can take a look at it. Please interrupt me and interject. And this is not the me show for sure. So this is a look at how we handle our WP products at Liquid Web with infrastructure and tooling. Talking just about development, QA, and release. And this is just a slide to show the various concerns that we look at across the various development to QA to release process and the tools that bridge those gaps. So, of course, GitHub workflows are super critical for most businesses. They are definitely very critical for us in how we handle everything from making sure the code is clean to how we running automated tests, how we package, and when it comes to sites and services, deployments out in the wild.
And Matt, before we get into it, I'd love to, one of our co-hosts, Amber Hines, is an accessibility expert. And one of the things we should probably try to do during this talk is to describe each slide to the best of our abilities for those who aren't watching. So what we're looking at in this slide is a development swim. It's a swim lane chart with a development lane, a quality assurance lane, and a release lane. And then there are different services that are spanning different numbers of those lanes. So Matt was talking about GitHub workflows. That GitHub workflows is going through development, quality assurance, and release. It's used through each one of these services.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll continue that theme. So GitHub workflows are super critical. We at Stellar, ChatOps plays a huge role in what we do, and for those that aren't aware of what ChatOps is, and this in the diagram spans development through quality assurance primarily. ChatOps is triggering tooling or infrastructure activities through chat interactions with a bot in Slack, for example.
And what bot do you use for that?
We have a homegrown one built with Bolt for Slack. So it's a JavaScript-based bot. That bot has the ability to dip into a number of our databases out in our infrastructure to work with GitHub. It talks to a Jenkins server as well, which Jenkins we use for doing some cron tasks or long-running processes that need delayed communication.
That's the StellarBot, right, Matt?
That's the StellarBot. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you got to talk about the most important feature of the StellarBot.
It also is very key in distributing tacos to people. So we have this giving props to fellow coworkers thing. You get an allocation of 5 tacos a day, and you can give tacos to people, virtual tacos, and there's a leaderboard that we look at throughout the year, and it's super fun.
Nice.
You can also attack people or inspire people with the bot, and that's fun too.
And so, can you give an example of what a chat interaction would be that triggers something that you regularly have triggered?
Yeah, actually, there's a slide that I can jump to.
I'm skipping ahead.
Let's see. That is in... I have too many slides. Slide 14. Let me jump to that. So these are a couple of examples of... so the one on the left here, this is a look at a chat in Slack, a chat thread, where one of our QA folks have asked for packaging of our event tickets plugin using the feature offline check-in branch. So it's a branch that was in development that she is aiming to do quality assurance for. So she sends a very tailored command, bot package, branch name for plugin abbreviation. And then that will send off to our bot will watch for that, and then it will communicate with ultimately GitHub Actions to either grab a zip or package a zip, and then build a link, which our Jenkins server handles signing and orchestrating the delivery of that zip to Slack, and then it will present a link where QA can just click on it and download a dev version of the zip or a final version of the zip if we're getting ready for an actual release. And then they can take that, install that on, we use InstaWP for all of our quality assurance testing and our public demos. And that zip can be installed and then tested.
And do you automatically install the zip on InstaWP? Is there a process that automatically spins up a InstaWP instance, or do you do that manually?
Not for this process, because packaging doesn't always necessitate spinning up a new site or putting it on an InstaWP site, though we do have some automations which are triggered through Slack to do Ghost Inspector testing. So Ghost Inspector, for those that don't know, does acceptance testing, and it will record videos and flag if there's a big change in the diff between 2 videos that it records. So we do have some Ghost Inspector suites where we will create an InstaWP site behind the scenes, automatically push a zip to it, and then run Ghost Inspector against that thing.
Cool.
It took a while to get there, though.
So at GravityKit, we, instead of having a chatbot, what we have is a GitHub action that runs, or Circle CI actually, we're moving over to GitHub, that automatically builds a new zip, a package zip for every commit. And then that gets pushed to what we call a release manager. That's a page inside of our WordPress site. And we have an internal link that we use for our own downloads, but we also, for each one of these uploads, have it uploaded to Dropbox. So we have a public link that we can share with customers who, let's say we have a patch that fixes a specific bug. We can share that Dropbox link with them, ask them to download it, install it, and see how it performs for them.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That public thing is not something we've done before. Sorry, Cromwell. Go ahead.
No worries. I want to clarify for those of us watching who aren't dev folks. I love all of this because they are going to all this effort to provide these build tools so that there is a deployable zip in one way or another. And one of the purposes is for the support team who is dev enough to really get their hands dirty, but probably not super dev enough to necessarily run build scripts and whatnot.
I'm barely dev enough now. Like the amount of build steps that it took when we launched was zip up a file, and now it's Composer install, npm run build. Like there's all sorts of different pre-packaging steps that happen.
Yeah. It's like you want to have folks to beat up these zip files, these plugins or themes or anything really, but they can't if it's not built correctly. So it's a great conversation about how to just be able to allow more parts of the business to be able to get hands on with your product. So.
And if you're listening to this and you don't have you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much. Don't worry about it. This happened over years, and it requires a certain amount of dedicated development time for somebody to implement this. So it's not. That is probably going to be a lot easier now with AI to spin up stuff like what we're talking about here. But don't feel imposter syndrome. I feel imposter syndrome. I'm sure, Matt, at some level you do.
Yeah. I'm jealous of the site that you've got for all your releases.
Yeah.
But this stuff was grown over a long period of time, and I think it's really interesting how there's a lot of really similar approaches that we both have taken with how we present the zips. We do GitHub Actions as well, and we're storing on Wasabi, which is like S3. It's just a place to put our zips, and that is what ChatOps is working with. So ChatOps just like layers on top of that and then talks with the GitHub Actions and the storage system. But we don't have the site, which is nice.
Well, let's dive back in.
Yeah.
Should I go back to slide 2, Matt?
Sure. Just real quick, there's another box on that one that is an example of how we talk to the bot to deploy a site in our infrastructure. So this is an example. Someone is typing bot deploy, and then the site that they are deploying, the branch to production or staging or development. And then under the hood, we have a Jenkins site that is doing the actual deployment and doing an Ansible-based deploy. And that's just a tool to orchestrate deploys that are safe.
In that instance, they're deploying the knowledge base website
exactly
to the live production URL, essentially.
For the events calendar, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it has a nice actionable success message there as well.
Mm-hmm. And failure, because it failed sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because devs exist. Like myself.
So we're looking again at the swim lanes chart where it shows ChatOps covering both development and what's the other lane?
Quality assurance.
Quality assurance. And then it deploys to release. What's the CLI tooling part?
We have a bunch of homegrown CLI tools that we use. They're used in our workflows. They're also used on our local dev machines for various things. We have a DB dump scrubber. So as probably most people that are running a product business, they've got a production website. Sometimes they need to recreate issues and they don't want to edit or do cowboy coding on the production site. So you need to get some semblance of production into a local dev environment or remote dev environment. So we have a tool that will, on the production server, export the production database to a scrubbing database, and then we'll sanitize all the data. So customer data, purchase data, PII doesn't get packaged up in that sanitized database, and then the dump scrubber will put it in a directory that's reachable by another CLI tool we have called SUP, which is a server utilities and processes CLI tool, and we can fetch those scrubbed databases from any of our production sites and bring it down into a local Lando instance. We use Lando for our local dev environments mostly, and import the database, and it's all safe, and we can typically recreate problems there with close to production data.
And this is something that is important for those who haven't considered it. Please do not just download database dumps and pass them around your support team or whatever. You need to make sure that they are sanitized and scrubbed, as Matt was talking about, because there's a lot of information in there that is very compromisable.
That tool specifically was grown out of the fact that there were cases in our past where we have accidentally emailed customers from local dev environments or
Oh yeah. No, and that's the thing. I try to drop all the tables and and do all the good things. I'm still so paranoid when I'm in a local dev environment. The first thing I set up is the WP block mail plugin.
Yes.
Set it as a multi-site, like a must-use plugin. It's my paranoia runs deep based on when I accidentally emailed thousands of customers from a local dev site. Not I, but actually a developer working with us on a website. So yeah, it's important to do that stuff.
Most shops have experienced that fear and the sadness when you realize we really need to email these people and apologize and hope they understand.
Yeah.
It's so tooling around safety with data. We have tooling for packaging our plugins consistently so a dev can package in the same way that GitHub Actions can. Tools for generating data on our sites are really important.
We have a question from Friendly Web Guy UK. Are there any off-the-shelf tools that could do this for less technical folks? And I assume that they're talking about the scrubbing of customer data for the database migration.
That's a great question. We built our own because I don't know of any that tailor specifically to WordPress and Laravel style databases. There might be something out there.
What I would recommend doing is asking ChatGPT for a plugin that adds to the WP CLI. Well, that's not less technical necessarily. Have it create a plugin that does this automatically, where it clones the table, like it sets up. It can accomplish the same outcome in many ways that are not as advanced as setting up a whole new database. So yeah, I'd chat with a AI and have it make a custom plugin for you.
Yeah, I would be very careful in doing any sort of action or testing with the production database.
You need a database to start off with.
Bring it, yeah. The production data never leaves our production servers. So if you build a tool like that, I would really advise getting the database dump and bringing it into another site that is on production.
That's good advice.
Isolated, yeah. So yeah, I don't know of any tools for that.
So we have CLI tooling, and that is for quality assurance as well. How does that work?
Yeah, so if we think back to the chat ops slide, that we have our quality assurance folks using our packaging through chat ops, but they also have we have some more technical QA folks that will do more dev-like tasks. So they'll use similar tooling for packaging, but what they really use heavily is data generation tooling. So they often need thousands upon thousands of posts in a site to load test something. So they will use our data generation tools to generate those the bits of data and then purge the data afterward.
And a tool that I wonder if you're using is FakerPress by Gustavo Bordoni, one of your lead dev people. Is that what you use internally?
Absolutely.
Nice. FakerPress, for those who don't know, is free. It's on the repo, and it's a great tool for generating a lot of data.
Yes. Yep. It's very good. We use that in combination with some custom CLI tools that we've built and some WordPress plugins that use it too, that are tailored to very specific products in our ecosystem. Yeah. Translations, that is a section that's over in the release column, the release lane. We have a lot of these tools overlap with each other, but we have some specific tooling around automating the generation of pot files, which is where all the translation strings live, generating the new generating a new pot file whenever we have a new release coming, and then uploading that to our GlotPress instance, and then tooling to fetch all those translations down from GlotPress.
Yeah, we actually had a really great in-depth conversation about automations around translations just last week that Zack was on, and Zack actually created a tool himself that it doesn't do the pot file stuff. It does.
It does.
Right?
Our lead developer, GravityKit Vlad, developed a tool called Potomatic, Potomatic, and check it out. It's on GitHub and also NPM. We're in the process of rolling out integration with all of our plugins, but it works so that every commit it diffs the translation files, and if there are any new strings, it automatically translates all of them, translates all the new strings and uploads them to our Translations Press instance, which is essentially GlotPress that's being hosted by Translations Press. And in order to do that, they didn't have an API, so Vlad developed a Playwright script, which is like a headless way of browsing the web. And the Playwright script goes through the Translations Press UI and uploads the file by pointing and clicking on the different elements, and automatically translates everything.
That's really clever.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's
so
nice.
Check out Potomatic if you're interested. We're going to be sharing our workflows, our GitHub actions, and our all the stuff I just described on Potomatic's GitHub.
I have a feeling you might get some customers who really don't understand the purpose of that product, though. They're going to be like wanting to sell stuff online, and I don't know. There's just a thought.
We'll see, I guess.
But that sounds awesome, and that's obviously a great infrastructure tool too. So.
Yeah, and if you don't want it, GlotPress is like a translations management platform for those who don't know. And it's a way, instead of, if you don't have a plugin on WordPress.org, WordPress.org runs GlotPress internally to manage all the translations and all the different strings for all the different languages, and distributes them from .org. If your plugin's not on .org, you need to figure out your own translation system. And that's why we use Translations Press. Something like Freemius has translations built in, I believe, as well. But you definitely need to consider internationalization, and check out our prior episode on more about that.
Definitely. I mean, international folks make up about 50% of our business.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
All right. So back in the development lane, I'm looking at lando.dev, local dev environments. We don't have a standardized thing. We let people roll their own whatever they want to do. How do you end up on standardized lando.dev?
It's sort of that's a good question. For a long time, people rolled their own, and we still encourage people to roll their own. But the thing that we support internally we've narrowed it down to one thing. Lando's open source, which is great. It uses containerization, so we can replicate really complex systems. For a long time, we were using Flywheel local by Flywheel. Now by WP Engine, I think. But the problem with local is it gives you a really great WordPress site, but if you are working on something more complicated, like some of our commerce sites or our SaaSes, you need things like Redis, you need queuing systems, you need maybe a node service that's running, and you can't really do that with local. So for a while, we did homegrown Docker stuff, and that was a nightmare, honestly. We had a really good system if you built it and you understood it, and then I learned about Lando quite a number of years ago, and it's taking the complexity of building the complex containerized system and gives you a command line tool to do all of that. And then you just define your site with a YAML configuration file, which is all plain text and really easy to manage. So we started standardizing on that for our internal sites. So for a time, and I'm sure many people will experience this, you have a new dev join your team, or you've got a couple of devs. One person is an expert at getting their system running with a site, but local machines have quirks and people don't necessarily understand how to set up everything exactly. Or, hey, this is working on my machine, but it's not over here. Lando allows us to commit into GitHub a way to spin up a specific site with all the correct versions. So now we can say, hey, okay, cool, run this Lando start command and you'll have a site, and here's the database you imported into it. And all the busy work of figuring out why things are different have drained away because of Lando. What do you guys do? You do a bunch of different things. What are the tools that you use, Zach?
I use Herd locally. Vlad uses Lando as well. I'm the unicorn. I'm the like ugly unicorn, I guess, where like so many times the CLI commands that work for everybody else just don't work for me, because I've customized my Macs like I don't know, bin folder so heavily that my Mac itself is the weak part of the tool chain. But yeah, we also try to do Dockerized testing, for example. Like our unit tests, we have a CLI command that when it runs for me, it spins up a Docker container and then runs the unit tests inside of that to make it less dependent on our local configurations.
That's a really big thing that was a stumbling block for us to actually fully adopt automated testing, was the confusion around, okay, testing database and containerization helped. We have a tool, and this is the other thing in the development lane, called Slick, and this is open source and available on StellarWP's/Slick. But it provides a containerized environment for consistent running of automated testing and building your running composer commands within the environment that you need to test on. You can change PHP versions and MySQL versions and versions of WordPress that you're using. So we use Slick locally to run our automated tests. We use Codeception, which is superset on top of PHP unit. It can also run Playwright tests. And it spins up a little site in a container and will do all its stuff. We can do that locally. We run the exact same tool in GitHub Actions. So our automated test, if there's a failure in one place, it's failing consistently. Very handy tool.
Sounds slick. Yeah. Nice
There
job.
you go.
Steve Jones, a guest on the show from Equalize Digital, says, we've been using WP-ENV and are switching that over to Docker now, but we end up rolling our own local environment a lot of the time. I got so close to wanting to go all in on WP-ENV as well, but didn't. Have you looked at it?
I'm really curious about playing with it for Slick, actually. So we have completely custom containerized environment. I actually would love to have WP-ENV power that, so we don't have to maintain all the stuff that we maintain to make
a lot less code. Yeah,
I don't see a world where we would switch to WP-ENV for local testing because of some of the dependencies we have to manage. But maybe I guess I don't know. I haven't poked at WP-ENV super deeply. I've spun up sites, but nothing really more than that.
Right.
It's a great tool.
And I see here under quality assurance lane, there's InstaWP and Ghost Inspector. We've talked a little bit about that. Do we have more to say?
No, I think we covered that pretty well. Both of those are vital to our business. Ghost Inspector takes a long time to run when you have a really big suite. We run those right before we do releases as a smoke test stage.
Yeah, we use Playwright, as I mentioned, and every time Ghost Inspector seems really cool, and then every time I'm looking at that cost, it's like it's just above what I wanted. At every stage, every year I look at it, I'm like, oh, this looks nice, and it's always a little more than I want to spend.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
Yeah. I think we have those conversations often over time in terms of like well, we didn't want to spend it on that software, but then that ended up meaning that we end up spending all these extra hours of dev time on stuff that we could have prevented or things like that. Um, I mean, I will say on the give side, but pre-acquisition, I think Ghost Inspector was one of the very first tools that we really invested in and that felt expensive for us. That immediately started seeing a lot of great benefits, mostly with our website deploys. We were doing a lot of Ghost Inspector stuff to make sure the website, when it was shipped, went live. Because the Give site, still even today, it's the marketing and e-commerce all in one site. And so it was like we had to really baby it to make sure it was always live and those types of things.
Yeah. And one bug per month pays for an entire year, or one bug per year pays for, anyway, it pays for itself when you have it set up. Yeah.
It really does.
But then you do spend a ton of time just configuring it and making it work the way you want it to work. So, I mean, there's
onboarding.
But it feels like you're investing that time in save time in the future. So,
totally. All right, what's next, Matt?
Yeah, let's go on. The next slide might feel a little intimidating, but I guess I need actually to click it.
Is this the all the things slide?
Actually, before I go into that, this is I forgot I built this slide. A quick look at how our deployments work for plugins or for sites and SaaSes, and I kind of talked about this already, where ChatOps will generate lang files. It will then trigger the packaging of a final zip, and then we'll fire off a GitHub workflow that uses the pup CLI, which is another thing that's open source, StellarWP/pup. And that does a number of things like running build steps. It does sanity checks on, are all your versions updated appropriately? Are all the files built in the correct location? And then we'll push that out to licensing and to WordPress.org. And then finally, we'll use ChatOps to generate dev docs by doing a deployment of our site.
That's good flow. One thing I didn't mention is we have a Pulse channel in our Slack. Our Slack is where we coordinate everything. We chat internally. Like, that's where we live on our remote team, is just all the time on Slack. So we have different Pulse channels. We have Pulse that has most things. We have Server Pulse, which is dedicated to only messages related to downtime associated with the server, or like higher latencies or things like that. We have Website Pulse, which is related to the individual websites errors, and Fatal Error Notify is one of the tools we use for that, which is a great tool. I highly recommend it. It connects to Slack, it emails, it does webhooks, whatever you want. But we also have our Pulse channel talks about blog posts that are updated or created. Talks about we have our GitHub actions whenever a build is created or a pull request is opened or an issue is created. It all goes into Pulse, and so you can actually track things there and have a visual of everything that's kind of happening in the dev process and on the marketing side as well.
That's pretty slick. We don't have anything that organized for. We have a DevOps channel where we do our site deploys, and we have a mix. There's some site deploys that can be triggered through ChatOps, and some other ones that we're trying out a new system that is purely GitHub based. I want to layer ChatOps on top of it. So now you have to look in a couple of places. So it's definitely not as organized as you have.
It's nice because sometimes a lot of our team actually does not mute that channel, and then we comment on pull requests like that people didn't know were coming in, or like it's a good way to coordinate. If other coordination fails, it's like a backup to let people know. Yeah,
that's nice. That's nice. For a time we had we were running periodic reports of pending pull requests, but as our team
it got depressing for us.
Same. We had some that would linger, and we're like, it got really annoying, and so we've retired those reports.
Yeah, no, that's one thing when it comes to tooling and automations. You want to make sure that it's not a demotivator for your team.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at something and you have a feeling of dread, That's a good sign to turn it off, because if it's stuck for a reason, then you got to work through that. If it's stuck for no reason, that's when I guess it's helpful. But we rarely encountered things we didn't know were stuck without a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's repeat dread, I think the occasional bit of dread is good and can spark some action. But if you're consistently sad, then
Yeah, every day I'd be like, I know that pull request remains open. Thank you very much, automation.
Exactly. The other workflow is like a super simple one and not really worth talking about, but how we deploy our sites. But this next slide is a title slide of our production systems. And this slide is the things that I could think of that make up our world. And again, I really want to emphasize that we grew to here over a decade.
Yeah, take a minute and describe it visually real quick.
Yeah, so right here we're looking at a slide that's split up in two halves. On the left is homegrown systems and third-party systems. And then we have some, I've color-coded the boxes to kind of follow some themes, but all the homegrown systems we have, I'll just run through them real quick. Licensing, our DevDoc system, telemetry, something we call IAN, which is in-app notifications, a service called Whodat, which is a Laravel service that handles OAuth, and it acts as a middleman for API requests between our plugins and external services. We have Solid API and backup workers that are used for Solid, and those are very Solid-centric homegrown tools or infrastructure under the hood. Then we have Solid Central as a service. We're using that for Stellar sites heavily and some of our internal sites. We have a system called Prophecy, which is a Laravel-based service that handles AI-related tasks, used heavily in Cadence AI. And then Solid Performance is a product we built on in the Solid team, and we're running that on, I think, almost all of our public-facing sites for handling page caching, and it speeds things up a lot.
I think all of the marketing sites. I don't know that we are using it on anywhere where we have like customer data, things like that. But...
Right, we're using it on places that have cacheable pages.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and then on the third-party services tool side, we have ActiveCampaign, Mailgun, Help Scout, DocSpot, InstaWP, OpsGenie, Cloudflare, Google Cloud. I put S3 Wasabi and Ceph. They all handle object storage. RabbitMQ, Sentry, and VWO. So those are all names of things. If we want to talk about any of them, I'm curious, Zach, where our overlaps are on this.
Yeah, well, we are going more into DocSpot. We've had really good success with it. One of the nice things is instead of trying to train a model on your docs yourself, they've already taken care of all that back-end stuff. So you just point it at your sitemaps, you point it at your YouTube videos, you point it at your documentation, and it figures out how to process chat requests and using AI. Whatever models you want, whatever prompts you want, it takes care of all that, and it's really nice. It works well. It doesn't hallucinate URLs, which is something that every other service, if you use other services that are AI related, they do, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We use Help Scout as well under the hood. We used Free Scout for a while. I didn't end up wanting to maintain another website that had bugs and broke and had updates and things like that. So Help Scout, say what you will, but it's reliable, which is nice.
Yeah.
Rabbit, we started using CodeRabbit for code reviews. Is that what you have under RabbitMQ?
No, we have some RabbitMQ. They're queuing servers, so message queuing.
Oh, well, we're using CodeRabbit for AI code reviews, and we've tried out GitHub Copilot. We've tried out Cursor BugBot, which is also good, but CodeRabbit is really quality, and that was also referred to us by Gustavo Bordoni at StellarWP. So that was a good recommendation.
That's great. I know we've started testing that a little bit, but we have not rolled that out organizationally at all.
It's great, and it's funny. Like, you know, you never know how your dev team is going to react to instituting a new process. CodeRabbit, our developer Duca, just started like chatting with it about like our different processes and like, oh, this is a placeholder, and this is why we're doing this. And same with Vlad, like they're communicating, trying to train it, which means I think they see immediately that it's valuable. They see that the way that it responds to PRs is friendly and approachable. They have a good at mention like API that makes it really easy to trigger processes
Nice.
from GitHub itself and pull requests and issues. So CodeRabbit, it's really good.
That's great. I'm gonna have to check that out. We've used the Copilot pilot reviewing a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
And
the
it's not
human
cheap.
better.
So we had them all enabled at the same time, and I just disabled Copilot today, in fact.
Okay, wow, yeah. I've disabled my Copilot access at our org level, and I'm pretty much a Cursor and Claude fanboy.
Same here.
Yeah.
And in terms of other tools that we use, one thing that we haven't really talked about is analytics. We have a lot of people. I know people love some different privacy enhanced services like Pirsch is a good one. There are tons of analytics services. We still use Google Analytics because it integrates with Google Ads, and we use Google Ads. But we also use PostHog, which is a great service that has tons of capabilities that we also are looking at integrating with our plugins itself, because it's hard to get telemetry in a way that is privacy preserving and also low impact on like the remote requests and stuff. And PostHog, they're European based. They care about privacy, and I like their interface. So we're looking at integrating PostHog more for telemetry as well. And we use Conversion Bridge, a WordPress plugin, to track that type of those hooks that are being sent to Google Analytics and PostHog. And then we have Click Yes, I believe is what it's called. The opt-in. No, not Click Yes. We use something like that for the European cookie notices.
Cookie yes. It always looks like cookie eyes, cook eyes. But
yeah, it's terrible to read.
Yeah.
But cookie yes. And in terms of like some of the other services we use, the list that I made is kind of more marketing related and more like a smaller WordPress company related, where we use Site-Wide Sales, a plugin for running site-wide sales by
the Paid Memberships Pro folks. Yep.
By the Paid Memberships Pro team. They do a great job. We use easy digital downloads to sell and distribute the plugin. We've customized the heck out of it. And one of the things that they do is by default is they have like 2 requests. You get update requests, then you get like license check requests, and those are different. And so we've consolidated those into one request that has all of the files that are allowed for the user that made the request, like all the change logs, all the everything, all in one big JSON that gets parsed by our licensing package on our plugin. And all of our plugins share one big licensing. We call it Foundation. And so that request only happens once because we have like so many plugins. It would be a shame if that were to happen every single time.
Yep.
We consolidated it to have one request that has everything that powers our backend dashboard.
That's great. Is it a single license key? Like people, they buy
I wish, but no. I'm really interested in moving to an OAuth type of situation to facilitate a better customer experience as well. Just click this button and it automatically knows everything about your purchase history and like your license keys and things.
We might need to have a follow-up episode with Matt again just to talk about licensing. I
want to.
I had so many like pulling my hair out pain points about give licensing, and Matt has been solving them across a bunch of brands for a long time. So
We talked about that in 2018, Cromwell.
did we?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You and me?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we did. We talked with, we had a conversation with Josh Strebel from Pagely. He wanted to solve this for us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a pullback. Yeah. That never happened though. That never happened.
Licensing is something that I've spent so many years on, and it has changed drastically at Stellar in the past. Matt, is it?
I mean, the last year alone, it
Yeah.
changed drastically. Just the last year, since we started really kicking off to say that Stellar Sites was going to be a real thing. That was like we had to get licensing working really, really smartly and really well in order to do Stellar Sites at all. But even before that. So.
Yeah, in particular, because a lot of our brands had historically done licensing very different. So we didn't want to break the business model of each brand. So now the licensing system supports single licenses, plan-based licenses, but there's 2 types of plans that are possible. We call them standard plans and seat flexible plans. We support install tracking or seat tracking. There's auth token management for authenticating a client plugin against a commerce site and storing the token at the licensing level. We have a whole credit system. This is really good for volume control for things like AI credits or services like event aggregator from the events calendar. We have the licensing sits as a middleman to handle and orchestrate cross-selling between brands. So we could go over to the events calendar and sell a Give product there as well if we wanted to. We're not.
That's cool.
And then it has awareness of what users on different sites are purchasing and how those IDs relate to each other. So it's gotten pretty complicated. And
why did it take so long, Matt?
I know. We also we have WordPress.com marketplace can sell our products, and it has a presence in our licensing system. So
yeah,
it's all pretty cool.
That's impressive.
But Homegrown, and it's a mixture of really modern stuff and really legacy, but it works.
And it works. It has to be said. It works in at least 3 different e-commerce environments. We have several sites that use WooCommerce. We have one that uses EDD, which is Give is still on EDD, and we have another one that we don't like to talk about, but it's like a homegrown e-commerce system. Everything on Solid is actually homegrown. So, and the licensing works across all of those environments, which is insane.
Yeah, we built out an SDK this year to make that possible for the Solid stuff.
Yeah,
that's impressive. Friendly Web Guy asks, but can it wash the dishes?
I wish.
Not yet.
No.
And Amber Hines, co-host, says, beware, there are accessibility issues with DocSpot. That is good to know. We're actually looking at integrating DocSpot with our support forum with Gravity Forms. Instead of using their own chat widget, we would use their API and communicate back and forth. So maybe, hopefully, that would help some of the accessibility issues. So Matt, we are kind of running low on time. Are there other slides that you really wanted to get to?
Nothing. I think maybe one slide is worth showing for a moment.
Yeah.
And that's slide 8. I can switch to that if we want. And this is just the reminder that, this doesn't happen overnight. And the flow at StellarWP, well, I started at TEC, so a lot of this is before that gray bar so we're looking at a sort of a boxed timeline where the first box is 2015 to 2017. My early days is at the events calendar. We did lots of homegrown tooling and significant use of open source. We weren't as profitable we weren't profitable enough to support a lot of the tools that we wanted, so we grew a lot of them. And then as we moved on, the next box is 2018 to 2021, and this is where we kind of shifted to more third-party systems. In addition to adopting additional open source, we de-emphasized homegrown tooling. We tweaked it, but our resources were growing. We had a bigger team, so we were able to bring things in, focus on development of our products, and just adopt some tools. And then as we grew, we were acquired partway through that, at Liquid Web and joined what is now Stellar. And that shifted us into 2022 through 2024. And this was actually when I started looking back at the overall timeline, it was interesting because we switched away from heavy adoption of third-party services and back to homegrown stuff because we're at a size and we had the number of developers in our organization to contribute to tooling that was very tailored to our needs. And this is where GitHub Actions started becoming more prevalent, and the tweaking our infrastructure that was tailored to how each of our businesses needed to run. And then as we move into the last box, which is 25 and onward, we've got some big projects that have started this year specifically related to Stellar Sites. But now with AI, I predict we're going to have a lot of third-party and homegrown tools kind of marrying those things together. And we've already we have a couple of tools in the work for documentation and things like that. So
I wanted to ask about that. So the approach that we're taking at GravityKit is this all is moving so quickly with AI tooling and services and how to actually implement this stuff the best. I'm just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. If somebody says, this looks cool, I'm like, okay, fine, let's sign up for it and see how it works. And then turning it off, it doesn't, or like leaving on this other, like we're just figuring out as we go along. What's your approach for how you're handling the AI revolution?
That's a great question. It's a little bit of what you are doing, but so there's a couple folks that are really pushing the envelope at Stellar. Matt Cromwell is one of them. I'm pointing up because he's above me on the screen. And he's pushing really hard on what AI means for customer experience.
Right.
And he could definitely talk about that, but I'll just jump ahead a little bit. We have Jason Adams, who's one of my directors at Stellar. He is focusing.
Who was on the show just a couple of weeks ago and talking about AI.
Oh yeah, exactly. So he's focusing on what AI means in the WordPress ecosystem and for our products. And then we have Gustavo Bordoni, who is heavily looking into AI and how it impacts our processes internally to ship things, to make data available to AI for support purposes, for DocSpot. One of the tools that he's working on is being able to crawl our knowledge base, convert those documents into Markdown that's consumable by AI, and then allow us to point DocSpot at those as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've been working with ChatGPT to have something like that as well, where every blog post, we're moving our documentation from Help Scout Docs over to our own website for many reasons, including the more control that we have over being able to easily scrape and do things like that.
Yeah.
And Help Scout now allow, like if you want to use Beacon with their AI powered Beacon, it allows you to point your docs somewhere else. You don't have to use Help Scout Docs anymore.
Is that true?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's
nice.
really cool. I pushed for that, and I was really happy they were already working on it.
Oh, good. Yeah, we have a sync service that allows for if that weren't the case, we built a whole synchronization service to keep the docs up to date based on Yoast's plugin that does the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to be like concatenating all the different files, markdown files that are statically generated into a single file for the LLMs to read for each one of our products and each one of the categories. And like, we'll see if it's any use for anybody.
Yeah. The tool that Gustavo is working on, I misspoke a little bit. It's not massaging documentation for DocSpot. DocSpot already handles that. It's massaging documentation so we can have an MCP server. So our IDEs can interface with our documentation as support is trying to build snippets for customers, or dev who are trying to look at, so we can look at the code and also all the breadth of documentation that Cromwell team has built.
I also like Gustavo really has a focus on trying to do all of that by minimizing token usage at the same time, which has been really cool. So,
maybe we should have Gustavo on as well.
I mean, like every episode can be AI related. And I can tell you, like, so many Stellar folks are really doing incredible stuff here. So I can have a Stellar person on every single show, honestly. So,
Same with GravityKit. Yeah,
We've
I'm
managed to
glad say,
massage
yeah.
infrastructure into AI somehow.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
Matt, what are your best advices for people who are looking into building their infrastructures out?
That I think there's a couple of points. I think one, take it slow and grow. Don't try to get out over your skis. It can be very expensive if you're trying to do everything at once, because then you have to look at third-party tools, and those have costs that might not scale well with your growth. That's the main thing. What I showed on the screen, we didn't get there overnight. It took a decade. Number two, I think this is really important in terms of focus, where you focus, because different teams will have different pain points, and the path that worked for the events calendar and ultimately Stellar, the path that worked for GravityKit is not going to be the same path that matters to you, depending on the personalities on your team. Focus on the pain points. Where any place that you can remove a human bottleneck is a really great place to focus, because it enables so many people to do really cool things and work efficiently. And you don't have to build the perfect removal of that bottleneck, but build something that's a little better than today.
And not just a bottleneck. I want people to also look for where the balls are being dropped in your processes and where errors are being introduced. And those are also places to look.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I remember packaging when I first joined the events calendar. It would take to get a very consistently functional package. It would take half a day of massaging change logs and doing all that stuff. Now it takes however long it takes the GitHub action to build, which is like 3.5 minutes, maybe.
It feels like going to the spa. Like when Vlad created our release manager, it just like a breath of fresh air that we had reliable packages.
Yeah,
100%. We have a couple of great comments here on the side I want to highlight real quick. Steve Jones, again, commenting in saying, we're using AI heavily in our dev workflows, but would love to learn more about implementing it on the documentation side.
Same here, Steve. Yeah, I want to hear more about that, Matt, but we're running
that's a good
out of time, I'm afraid.
I think that's a good thing that Gustavo and Cromwell can talk to pretty heavily.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Amber Hines, also Equalize Digital, also WP Product co-host, says 100% creating docs is very time consuming, and anything we could do to automate that would be great. I'll say on the documentation side, just super briefly, I'll just say that like trying to focus on the thing that a lot of folks think about is ChatGPT projects are really great for that. Throwing in as much product knowledge as you can into the project as possible, and then focusing on custom instructions as much as possible that say, give me an outline first and don't write anything until I approve the outline. And then once the outline is approved, then write the article. That has been a game changer for me personally. That's just like the TLDR of what I do in terms of online human readable documentation stuff.
And for our side, now when we do PRs, we have our pull requests to GitHub, like trying to introduce changes to our plugin. We have AI automatically generate updated documentation based on the PR or new features. We ask it to document new features for different user types of users, developers, beginners, advanced users, and have documentation that is catered toward each of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's where I was saying that it would be nice to have like for our thorough getting started, or our thorough like here each one of the settings under this plugin, here's what it does, here's how to use it. That's where having the playwright tests that are automatically generated that that represents each one of those settings, have those automatically generated and run, and have that be part of the pull request system would be really cool.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, I would say for me, best advice on this subject is to always think of infrastructure as an investment in your team as much as possible. There's I've had too many conversations where it feels like the conversation goes, "Oh, we should really build this system to make things easier, but we really got to ship some more product, so we're not going to spend that time." And that's always a tension for sure. Like it feels like spending time on this infrastructure thing is going to pull you away from sales or shipping more product and whatnot. That tension's real. But what you got to recognize is that it's an investment in your team that will pay off dividends in the future and make it easier and better to ship product in the future. So don't get trapped in that, like either this or that mentality. Really try to bake in time into infrastructure as much as you can.
And like what Matt was saying, if people are in pain about the processes that you use, that is a bad work environment.
Yeah.
We work virtually. We for your developers, for your support team, for marketing, anybody. If the flow of what you're doing stinks, you are poisoning your culture. So as much as you can do to remove those pains, it helps everybody feel good about their work and how they do it. So
100%.
yeah, it really is an investment in your team, like Cromwell was saying.
What about
And my
you,
best
Brad?
advice is use GitHub as much as possible. It's the place to be. It's great. Use it. It has so many good things, including project management. It has like GitHub Actions. It's all so much of it is free. Stuff that's not free is pretty cheap. Like it's fast. It's better than Circle. Like it's good for pretty much everything it offers. Is top notch.
+1 to that.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, unfortunately, that's a wrap. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
GitHub.com/workweb. I don't really use X all that much, so GitHub is actually where that's my social network.
And what's your username there?
Borkweb, BORKWEB.
All right, wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, and all the work that we're doing at Stellar is, of course, at github.com/StellarWP. We have a lot of libraries and some of these tools we talked about. Thanks for having me on. This was really fun.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Hey, folks, next week we have a special episode where we are bringing somebody who is not from the WordPress space at all. So be nice.
Point of interest, is this, or point of order even, is this allowed?
It's WP Product Talk, right? We're actually discussing some lessons from Shopify for WordPress product markers with, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name correctly. I'm going to let him pronounce his name, but he's a person that Katie got to know through her work in expanding into Shopify space. And I'm excited for this conversation next week. You'll definitely need to tune in and bring your questions.
I'm excited too. And special thanks for Post Status for being our green room where we coordinate these shows. If you're enjoying our show, please do us a favor, hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends, reference this show in your newsletters, and don't forget to tune in again next week. Bye.
Bye.